On Sunday, November 9th, 2008, James Donald replied to an email he received from Satoshi the previous day. In it, Satoshi explained that double-spent transactions were rejected by nodes on the Bitcoin network, who would only work with the first transaction received. James then asked this clarifying question on what happens when two different nodes find a valid but different block at the same time. Quote, "Okay, suppose one node incorporates a bunch of transactions in its proof of work, all of them honest, legitimate single spends, and another node incorporates a slightly different bunch of transactions in its proof of work, all of them equally honest, legitimate single spends, and both proofs are generated at about the same time. What happens then?"
Satoshi answered this question on the same day with the following email. Quote, "They both broadcast their blocks. All nodes receive them and keep both, but only work on the one they received first. We'll suppose exactly half received one first, half the other. In a short time, all the transactions will finish propagating so that everyone has the full set. The nodes working on each side will be trying to add the transactions that are missing from their side. When the next proof of work is found, whichever previous block that node was working on, that branch becomes longer and the tie is broken. Whichever side it is, the new block will contain the other half of the transactions, so in either case, the branch will contain all transactions. Even in the unlikely event that a split happened twice in a row, both sides of the second split would contain the full set of transactions anyway. It's not a problem if transactions have to wait one or a few extra cycles to get into a block." Satoshi Nakamoto.
James asked more follow-up questions related to what we now know as the block time target of 10 minutes. Quote, "So what happened to the coin that lost the race? On the one hand, we want people who make coins to be motivated to keep and record all transactions and obtain an up-to-date record of all transactions in a timely manner. On the other hand, it is a bit harsh if the guy who came second is likely to lose his coin."
Satoshi responded to this with, when there are multiple double-spent versions of the same transaction, one and only one will become valid. The receiver of a payment must wait an hour or so before believing that it's valid. The network will resolve any possible double spend races by then. The guy who received the double spend that became invalid never thought he had it in the first place. His software would have shown the transaction go from unconfirmed to invalid. If necessary, the UI can be made to hide transactions until they're sufficiently deep in the blockchain. James continued his email with, quote,
"Further, your description of events implies restrictions on timing and coin generation, that the entire network generates coins slowly compared to the time required for news of a new coin to flood the network."
Satoshi clarified some details by saying, quote, "Sorry if I didn't make that clear. The target time between blocks will probably be 10 minutes. Every block includes its creation time. If the time is off by more than 36 hours, other nodes won't work on it. If the time span over the last 6 times 24 times 30 blocks is less than 15 days, blocks are being generated too fast and the proof of work difficulty doubles. Everyone does the same calculation with the same chain data, so they all get the same result at the same link in the chain." James then said, quote,
"Otherwise, the chains diverge more and more, and no one ever knows which chain is the winner. You need to make these restrictions explicit, for network flood time may well be quite slow, which implies that the new coin rate is slower. We want spenders to have certainty that their transaction is valid at the time it takes a spend to flood the network, not at the time it takes for branch races to be resolved."
Satoshi answered, "Instant non-repudiability is not a feature, but it's still much faster than existing systems. Paper checks can bounce up to a week or two later. Credit card transactions can be contested up to 60 to 180 days later. Bitcoin transactions can be sufficiently irreversible in an hour or two." James then said, quote,
At any given time, for example, at 1,009,138 seconds, we can look back at the past and say, at 1,008,737 seconds, node 5 was it, and he incorporated all the coins he had discovered into the chain, and all the new transactions he knew about on top of the previous link. At 1,008,792 seconds, node 2 was it, and he incorporated all the coins he had discovered into the chain, and all the new transactions he knew about into the chain on top of node 5's link. At 1,008,745 seconds, node 7 was it, and he incorporated all the coins he had discovered into the chain, and all the new transactions he knew about into the chain on top of node 2's link. But no one can know who is it right now. So how does one know when to reveal one's coins? One solution is that one does not. One incorporates a hash of the coin secret whenever one thinks one might be it, and after that hashes securely in the chain. After one knows that one was it at the time, one can then safely spend the coin that one has found, revealing the secret. This solution takes care of the coin revelation problem, but does not solve the spend recording problem. If one node is ignoring all spends that it does not care about, it suffers no adverse consequences.
Satoshi answered, with the transaction fee-based incentive system I recently posted, nodes would have an incentive to include all the paying transactions they receive. Satoshi Nakamoto. James ended his email by claiming,
We need a protocol in which your prospects of becoming it also depend on being seen by other nodes as having a reasonably up-to-date and complete list of spends, which this protocol is not. And your protocol is not either.
If you want to support more of this kind of content, visit shopbitcoin.shop.